Hello and welcome to Rocket to Infinity game. Your mission is to be the first player to reach the launch pad in the center and blast their rocket into space. You do this by traveling around the circular path through the 3 environmental zones, collecting enough credits, and in doing so, unlock any of the 3 infinity paths. It's time to set up the Rocket to Infinity board. Use the pieces provided in the box, and don't forget to shuffle the credit notes and the lock cards before placing them face down. Choose your game piece and place it on Ocean 0. You're ready to play. Each player rolls 2 dice and the player with the highest score goes first and play continues to the left. The first player rolls all 3 dice, selecting 2 of the values to use in one of the 5 operations. The result of the operation determines how many spaces you can move clockwise or anti-clockwise around the board. Note that no negative numbers or decimals are allowed. Move the unused die and place beside the first stone of the matched color environmental zone, keeping the value that was rolled face up. On all subsequent turns, each player must only re-roll the 2 dice that were last used and selected for the operation. After the 2 dice have been rolled using one of the 5 available operations, 2 values from any of the 3 dice to combine. The result of this combination is the number of spaces the player should move on the board. On its turn, the unused die needs to be moved to the matching color environmental zone. On the Rocket to Infinity board, you will discover some key spaces. If you land on a credit space, just pick up 1 credit note and place it face down, keeping the value a secret. If you land on a lock card space, pick up a lock card and read it to all players and follow the instructions. If you were asked to pay credits and unable to pay the full amount, your game piece will be moved to one of the 3 locks: the odds lock, the evens lock, or the multi-lock. If you land on the roll again arrow, re-roll the 2 dice you have just selected, using only their values to select an operation to move again. If you land on a greater than or less than sign, select the higher or lower value of the dice you roll, and then re-roll the last 2 dice and move the selected higher or lower value around the board. If another game piece lands on the space you are on, you must pay the other player a minimum of 70 credits. If you did not have the exact credit value, you must pay the closest value above or below. However, if you pay below 70 credits, your game piece will be banished to one of the 3 locks. The exact position on the lock depends on the credit value paid. How do you get out of a lock? There are 3 possibilities. First, you can use an out of lock card, returning the used card to the bottom of the lock card pile. The second possibility, if it's in P5 and move it out your game piece, is you could use to 0 space in the environmental zone. And the third, if you're in the odd lock, you can roll 2 odd numbers. If in the evens lock, you can roll 2 even numbers. And if you're in the multi-lock, you can roll 1 odd number and 1 even number on 2 consecutive rolls. In other words, you need to roll an odd number and an even number on the first roll, and then an odd number and an uneven number. If you don't manage to roll any of these dice combinations, at the end of each unsuccessful turn, move 1 space around the lock until you reach P5 on every turn. When you leave the lock, remember to collect your lock escape token to stop you from being sent straight back. Within the pile of lock cards, there are some special lock cards, the multi-action and the blank out cards. With the multi-action card, you can change any space on the board. Get tactical with a blank out card by blanking out one of the lock card spaces. If you pick either a luck or credit multiplier lock card and the tokens are still available, you can place them within an environmental zone. You are allowed 1 credit and luck multiplier per zone. When a player lands on a luck or credit space within the environmental zone that has a multiplier token, they must pick up additional credit or lock cards in line with the multiplier number given on that token. Multiple lock cards must be collected at the same time, turning them face down on the board and actioning in order, 1 at a time. The 4 infinity kips and right to infinity cards cannot be used at the same time within a multiplier picked up set. Do return any unused cards to the bottom of the pile. If you're sent to a lock, you forfeit any remaining lock cards and return them to the bottom of the pile. To reach the infinity launch pad, first you need to unlock an infinity path. To do this, you must have a minimum of 200 credits and land exactly on the arrow at the start of any of the 3 infinity paths. As soon as you land on the start pace of the infinity path, you need to pay 200 credits for 1 blast off fuel unit. Collect your big fuel token once paid and keep it visible next to you. Whilst you are on the infinity path, you have the option to purchase up to 3 booster fuel units. for a minimum of 50 credits each. Collect any small field token you pay for, and again keep it visible next to you. The small field token can be converted into an extra turn to take during your normal turn, on the Infinity Path, or before any player launches and reaches L5. However, as soon as the first player reaches the launch pod, the opportunity to buy booster fuel units stop. The Infinity launch pad comprises of 5 spots, L1 to L5, and the podium. To access the Infinity Launchpad, your chosen operation and number of spaces must land your game piece exactly on the first space after the Infinity Path, which is the green area. You must then immediately place your game piece to launch spot L0 on that turn. If other players are on the launch pad, move your game piece to the same launch spot as the first player who landed on the launch pad. Every time a game piece lands on launch pad L0, L1, L2, L3, L4, or L5, any player who is not within the launch pad must pay 1 credit note as homage. If a player runs out of credit notes and unable to pay the homage, they are out of the game. When the first player reaches the blast off spot, the round of turns need to be completed and any unused booster fuel units need to be discarded. Once all turns have been taken, any players on the blast off spot L5, starting with the player whose turn is next, needs to cancel out their credit notes. They must make this visible to all players. The player triumphantly announces their temporary win announcement, telling the players their credit note total, and then moves their game piece to the launch podium. If there is another player on the Infinity podium, the player with the greatest credit note total remains on the Infinity podium and the other player returns to the blast off spot L5. This happens until all of the players, the credit notes have been counted. If it's a draw, it's time for the showdown and the details can be found in the main rules. If this all made sense to you, then you're ready to play. If not, watch the video over or refer to the rule sheet for specific parts. Have fun and let the Rocket to Infinity game begin.